Parsons, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian, and good morning to your listeners.
Good morning.
I've called in my role as the critic for Justice and Public Safety, Shadow Minister. But before, I certainly would like to comment on Eugene Nippard's your conversation with Eugene and about the gas prices. I mean, just yesterday, gas was down, but now we know today gas is back up. But just so everybody does know, we have put a bill amendment before the House of Assembly current, which is the debate that's currently ongoing. Obviously, we're in constituency week this week, but we have an amendment before the House to call on government to further reduce our gas tax that we introduced for the past several years, to introduce this even further, to remove the provincial sales tax on gasoline. Separate issue, I know, from the Public Utilities Board, but just for your, and I know you're aware, but just for the public's aware, we have proposed that amendment now, and that debate is ongoing. So currently, the new government certainly is in a position to take this even further. As I said, we introduced this tax reduction for the past several years, and they are now in a position to do just that. And I mean, they did campaign on lower taxes and more services. So here is an opportunity where they would get full compliance with the House of Assembly and supporting this bill amendment to actually lower taxes to help people with the cost of living relief, in particular at the pumps at this time.
Yeah, and
so I just wanted to mention that.
And I appreciate you doing so, Pam. My thinking on this is a wait and see. I think they've been hoping and waiting. They got constituency week. So everybody is doing it, not just this jurisdiction, this province, but everybody's watching to see how and when there's any light at the end of this tunnel. And right now they're at the rhetoric stage, which seems to suggest they're nowhere near ending this war. And I think a lot of governments, a lot of finance ministers, a lot of coffers are really, nobody knows, right? Everybody's in the same boat on this. Nobody has better intel than anyone other than, unless you're in the mind of Donald Trump, and I dare not go there. So, that's what we're up against, Pam, and I don't, I don't, what's the word for it? Wish this on anyone, but, you're the current government. Sometimes be careful what you wish for, but they have levers. They certainly do, and I think they're just waiting to see if this was going to drag out, because we know Energy Minister Parrott had mentioned it's just been 20 days. Well, it's double that now, and it will be by the time you guys get back in the House next week and the debate resumes. So I would be...
Is, Brian,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, too, and one of the arguments that Minister Parrott's put forward, that it's a permanent bill, they're introducing a permanent bill. But as you and I both know, I mean, you've been a journalist here for quite some years. No legislation is permanent. All it takes is a call of the House of Assembly, a debate to happen, the process to happen on the floor of the House of Assembly, and any legislation can be modified, changed, taken away, introduced, as you know. So, I mean, that can happen at the will of the government at any time. But that said, I digress, because I did call in about other topics. But, let's have some compassion, because as we know, we are facing significant cost of living challenges, not just with fuel prices, but with everything across the board, from utilities, from food. Something else they could have done, we could have opened up the House of Assembly in the fall. We could still do it now to remove provincial sales tax off hydro bills, because as we know, I know Eugene Nippard mentioned that as well in his call about the skyrocketing costs of power. Pam, and I mean, it's just
look 2 months ago, just back 2 months ago. All the issue was, we were already in a pile of trouble here, wondering how we were going to dig our way out, what they're going to do with the budget. That was before the war.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just a lot of things on the table here, a lot of topics, and you and I can take the entire show to talk about these alone. But I do want to get to my points, if I could.
Go for it.
As you know, I am the Minister for Justice and Public Safety. I just want to also call on the Minister and on the government. It's been 4 months now since we've had an update on the adjournment of the Civil Traffic and Contraventions Act hearings and the suspensions of travel circuits in courts across the province. It happened actually in November. It was actually during the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence is when we got this announcement of the sudden court closures. And we don't really know why. We haven't been given an explanation as to exactly why this is happening. But we haven't heard anything since. We do know that Minister Ottenheimer announced the establishment of a working group that was to analyze the root causes of the pressures being experienced by the provincial court system. But we were expecting, and she had said on record, that we would have an update by mid-February on that. But to date, we still have not heard anything. I did meet with the minister. We reached out and to discuss some priorities over justice and public safety. And at that time, she implied that she was optimistic about hearing something soon, but unfortunately we haven't heard anything. So I just want to, highlight that again. I mean, it's significant, and as you would know, a court reporter, I mean, when one part of the system is backed up, it impacts everything, and the whole entire system. So it would be good to get an update exactly what's happening there, and what we can, what we can expect. And also, I wanted to talk about ankle monitoring. As we know, there have been public calls for the extension of ankle brace monitoring to include domestic violence for perpetrators. Now, when I was Minister for Women and Gender Equality, I struck a cabinet committee on gender-based violence as a crisis. And we had a number of ministers and a number of assistant deputies and deputy ministers that were part of that committee. And we had a lot of presentations from stakeholders. And I'll never forget one of the stakeholders from Violence Prevention, Avalon East. And they came in and they did a really thorough presentation on ankle monitoring and how it can prevent further events, further attacks, further violence, if you will. It's something that we had promised in our platform. Our platform specifically promised to expand the use of the location monitoring equipment for individuals out on bail or with release conditions to enforce the court conditions. And obviously, the goal was to deter repeat offenses. And we do know that Premier Tony Wakeham made this commitment on the campaign trail. So again, it's a wait and see type thing. There are lots of things before Justice and Public Safety. Also comes to mind the number of police officers. That was also a hefty promise made that they were going to increase, I think, by 50 or more police officers. But now they're saying they're focusing on the vacancies within the RNC. But as we know, and as we see in the news media, and again, bail reform comes into question here as well. What we're seeing out here in Conception Bay North in particular, there's lots of work to be done within Justice and Public Safety. And I've met recently as well with RCMP here with the Joint of Council, Conception Bay North. There's community leaders across Conception Bay North that come together every month to discuss. And let me tell you, Brian, I think crime and public safety is the number one issue discussed. And we also had a panel of our RCMP, the chief, that were there just recently, and in our time in government, our administration invested over $40 million in justice and public safety, which included resources, of course, for policing and for more resources. So hopefully we're going to see that continue. In my conversations, I think everybody's on the same page. We need to do more, but residents deserve to feel safe and to know that when our law enforcement is in action and they're taking care of these events on our streets, we all deserve peace of mind. But that said, too, police need the resources and the support from all levels of government, provincial, federal, as we know, and anything that municipal governments can do. But I think we all are on the same page. So hopefully we're going to see some improvements and we're going to see some investments going forward.
As we know more than ever, the answer to all of our questions is money, Pam, and you know it. Cost prohibitiveness, whether it's the ankle bracelets or whether it's trying to fund enough, fill a courtroom with one sheriff's officer. We know again this week, Stephenville Court had to shut down for a day. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people, in the queue, whether or not you're innocent and you're guilty, whatever. If you're in the system and you're waiting, it's all trepidatious enough and nerve-wracking enough and worrying enough. People get into these situations where they have to go to court. Whatever the issue, court is not for the faint of heart. Like it's pressure and it's nervousness and it's when you get it postponed and it's carried over and you got to make a trip. Mm-hmm. When one court is closed, you got to make a 2-hour trip on the highway. On top of it, it just compounds the whole issue. And as far as the ankle bracelet, I just want to go back again. The issue there has long been, as you noted, I've covered the courts long enough to hear this discussed between judges and prosecutors and defense lawyers in the courtroom, openly talking about the difficulties expanding that program, whether it's the supply of the actual bracelets, the type that they use, the connectivity in rural areas, whether or not they can be monitored properly. So it's not cut and dry, it's not black and white, but it is money.
It is, and we do know that we've looked into what other jurisdictions are doing in Atlantic Canada and Quebec, for example. They have success with the electronic monitoring programs, and we do know that some provinces who have implemented the program have been able to do it at a cost of just about $15 a day based on the research that we've done. So, again, it's something to certainly look at. But again, some big promises made for more policing. We hope we see that in this budget. But again, let's have an update on what's happening with the courts. Again, we're not given a reason reason why. It was abrupt. It was back in November. The minister has said that, they are expecting an update in February. So we're now approaching April. So I call on her respectfully, certainly give an update on what we can expect. Because again, the justice system affects each and every one of us, as you know, Brian.
Yeah, and I mean, the monitoring program has been in effect for a few years. I mean, it's been expanded to different areas. It's just the amount of it. And as we see these cases, especially in your backyard, Pam, with Mr. King, Justin King, before the courts, prolific offender that he is, clearly thumbs his nose every opportunity he gets at the job. He just doesn't care, clearly, and I'm saying that on the record because he's been convicted of not caring, really, in previous breaches. So what can you say about that? It's in your backyard. I can appreciate the importance of it. Pam, I really appreciate your call. Look forward to the debate when you guys get back in the House next week.
I do too. Thank you, Brian. But again, a heartfelt thank you to the police for what they're doing and law enforcement for the resources that they have, and compassion for the people who are living through this. I mean, the people in Concepcion North Region have experienced trauma and devastation like none other. Currently what we've seen with regards to wildfires. So my heart goes out to them. And also, I will close on this note. We do have Newfoundlanders and Canadians, Newfoundlanders, Labradorians, and Canadians that are currently living in the Middle East. So our prayers are with them, for their safety, while all this turbulence is happening in the Middle East. So our prayers are certainly with them. So stay safe, and you take good care. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks, Pam. I really appreciate the call. Anytime.